everyone. I know it's been so long since I posted a video, but today I'm going to bring it back to the basics and show you how to apply your eyeshadow. So if you're interested in learning how to apply your eyeshadow like a pro, but the beginner stages and making it easy, then please keep watching and I hope you enjoyed this look. So the first thing you always want to do is apply an eyeshadow base, and this will ensure that your eyeshadow stays on all day long, especially if you have oily lids. I like to use the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot because it just gets the job done, but sometimes I also use long wearing foundations or concealers, so use whatever you have and whatever you know lasts all day long. And I'm going to apply that with a flat brush all over the lid up to the brow, and then we're going to set it with the powder. You don't want to apply too much because then it defeats the purpose of what it's supposed to do. So apply as much as you think you need, but again, less is always more. You want to take it along the lower lash line as well because we are going to be applying eyeliner and then eyeshadow under there, so you want to make sure that everything stays in place. And I'm not taking any extra product. I'm just using whatever is left on my brush. If you have like droopy eyelids, I recommend kind of like tilting your head back so you can see the smooth skin and then putting it on. If you put it on head on, it'll look really messy because it's going to be pulling on your skin. So now you want to set the base in place because if you don't do that, it's going to end up creasing anyways. But this also just helps to kind of make a clean canvas for the eyeshadows to be applied more smoothly. So I'm going to take the shade Cream from the Lorac Pro palette, and I'm going to apply that on my lid and then also under the brow. So it's the same places that we applied the base earlier. And again, if you have more of the droopy lid or you have a lot of fine lines and wrinkles on your eyelid, go ahead and tilt your head up, kind of lift your brow, and then place the product. So I have kind of a hooded eyelid because you can see that it kind of droops down. So I have to apply my eyeshadow while I lean back. The brush I'm using is a MAC 217. This is my go-to brush for blending out eyeshadow. It just gets the job done. I know that Sigma makes one that's similar. I will list the name either on the screen or down below for the eyes. Next, you want to take a smooth transition color. And this is very difficult to explain to people who don't know why a transition shade is so important. So a transition color kind of maps out where the end point of your eyeshadow will be. So for instance, when you place the eyeshadow right here, the transition color, you can't go past that because then it'll be way too much for your eye shape. So depending on your eye shape, kind of place it where you think you need it. For like wide set eyes, you kind of want to take it a little bit higher, just depends on where your brow is. But the importance of a transition color is just to help you blend out the color a lot better. It just makes things a lot easier versus if you were to go on with a dark color first and then try to blend it out. The transition color kind of helps to kind of melt everything into the eyes, if that makes sense. It was so hard to explain the importance of a transition color, but you just use a transition color because it will definitely help your makeup game. I'm going to be using kind of a taupe shade. This is the taupe from the Lorac Pro palette. And I'm kind of putting it on the tip of the brush like that. You want to tilt your head back, angle the brush downwards, and you want to put it where your eye socket is, right here. I know this is really gross, but it's to show you, and then kind of blend right in that socket. And notice that I'm using the brush, I'm holding it at the very end. The closer you hold it, the tighter the color will be there, and then it'll be harder to blend out. The softer your hand is when blending, the easier it'll be for you to place the colors on the lid. So you want to keep your hand as far back as possible and take little at a time and blend it in the eye socket. And as you can see, it kind of does the blending for you, and it takes it up under the brow, but not right under it to where it just looks like a big old mess. And transition colors usually tend to be matte, neutral, browny shades. You can use pretty much any color depending on what kind of look you're going for. But be sure when you're using a transition color that it is a matte shade. Shimmery will look crazy. And notice I'm kind of making kind of like a little C shape while I'm blending it down because I'm going to bring it to the outer corner of my eye. And this kind of helps map out where you should place your eyeshadow as well. And you can either go back and forth or you can do little circular motions back and forth, whatever you find comfortable. Be sure to take little at a time of the color because if you start out with too much, it'll be really hard to blend out. We've already placed the map for the transition shade. Now you just want to build on top of it. So I'm going to take a darker brown shade. This is the shade Sable from the Lorac Pro palette. And I'm using the same brush in the same way. So I'm going to dip the tip and then go right on top of what we just did. And this sounds repetitive, but it kind of gets the job, like it just makes the blending a lot easier. So I'm not going exactly on top of where we placed it, I'm going like a little under where we placed the previous color. So again, you want to angle it upwards, holding the brush on the outer part. We're holding the brush as far back as possible. And this color, I'm not taking all the way in. I'm going to keep it kind of where the arch of my brow is. And again, making that C shape, blending it outward. And I'm doing the little circular motions that I mentioned earlier because it just makes the blending a lot easier for me. And it's okay if the lid gets messy because we're going to be fixing that up with the other eyeshadows in a minute. So we've placed the transition color, we've placed the darker color, and now we have to deepen up the outer corner of the eye. So how do you do that? This is where you have to switch your brushes and you have to kind of go back and forth between two different brushes to make sure, one, the color is placed on the eye where you want it, and then two, you still need the blending brush to blend everything out. For the outer corner, I kind of like to use a very condensed brush. This is the M506 from Morphe, and it has a very tapered end, but it's very, very small, so it gets into the tiny places really well. So what you want to do is take a darker shade. I'm just going to take an even darker brown. You can take black if you want to. Maybe I'll go in with black just to show you. And then you want to just place it on the outer half, take the other brush, and start blending it. So I'm going to take the shade Espresso first because, again, you want to build up the color. So you don't want to go in straight with a black because then it will look, again, like a huge mess. So again, tip of the brush. And you want to concentrate this on the outer half of the lid. Again, you don't want to pass the arch of your brow. So I'm going to place this color right here. And you just want to kind of place it. There's no rhyme or reason to placing it. Just place it. Now that you have this dark color right here, this looks crazy, so you have to blend it out. So take the previous transition color, the darker transition color, go on the outer edges of the eyeshadow because you can see exactly where I placed the eyeshadow, and you want to blend the edges out. Instead of blending the whole thing out, you want to blend the edges out because if you blend the whole thing out, it'll start to look muddy. And now you want to take a little bit of the first shade you used and kind of go lightly on top of everything, and that's just to keep the balance of the eyeshadows. You kind of have to eyeball it and see what you think it needs, but go back and forth. If you're hesitant and aren't really sure what to do, take the first light color that you used to begin with and just blend it using that instead of using two different shades. Now you can see that this part right here is completely different contrasting colors. So I just like to take my brush with nothing extra on it and just kind of blend this color onto the lid. Now we didn't put any color on the lid yet, but by doing this, it'll help you blend the lid color into the darker color. That way you kind of save time when blending out the eyeshadow. And as you can see, it's blending out really well. And that's pretty much it. Now you want to put on the lid color. I'm just going to go in with like a bronzy gold color just to show you the high contrast. Put on the lid color. I'm going to be using the MAC 239 brush. It's a flat brush. You want to use a flat brush when applying pigments or colors to the lid because it's just easier to press down and blend out. If you use a fluffier brush, it'll take more product because it's not going to be as pigmented. So the smaller the brush, the tinier the bristles, the easier it is to pack on the color. So I'm going to take the shade Light Bronze. Kind of sweep down on both sides to make sure that the brush is fully saturated with this eyeshadow. And then you want to, again, tilt your head back. I have to do this because my eyes are droopy, like I said. And so where you put the eyeshadow on the lid, you don't want to pass the crease of your eye because if you do that, it'll mess up the entire thing. And you want to push down and then slide down on the color. I kind of like to carve out a little bit too, just so it makes it a little easier for me to place the color. Okay. Now you can see, again, there's a really harsh line right in the middle. So you want to take your blending brush again, dip it in the very first shade that you used. I'm using the taupe shade. And you kind of want to just lightly flick in between the two colors to blend it out. And then I'm going to take the darker, the second shade that we used, the sable, and again, darken up the outer half. Now, you can stop right here. This is a pretty good look for a neutral everyday look. If you want to amp it up a little more and add black, I will show you how to do that. So you want to take the same smaller brush. You can use this brush, you can use a pencil brush, anything that's a lot more smaller in and more dense. You want to dip it into the black. So I'm just using the black shade and tipping it, the tip of it. And this will go right only on the outer corner of the eye. So the first one was the outer half. This is going to be right at the corner. So you don't want to pass brow. And I packed it on right here. Again, there's a distinct line. So you want to take the blending brush, take a darker brown, I'm using the second one that we used to blend out, and blend everything out. And this is the shade Sable one more time. And I'm going to blend out the outer edges of the eyeshadow. Then you want to take the very first shade, the taupe shade, and make sure everything's blended out. You have to do a lot of back and forth because if you don't, you take your time, it's going to look like a mess. So you have to take your time. I know it's very tedious. I'm going to leave this video in like live view so you can see how much blending actually goes into blending out the eyeshadow. I know a lot of beauty gurus just like speed up the process. I do that too just to save time. But blending is very, very important. You have to go back and forth and make sure that everything's blended out. Now, if you think that you have way too much product going up right here and you kind of want to clean it up, you can take a concealer brush. I have concealer on this from earlier because I was cleaning up my brows. So whatever is left on here, I'm just gonna kind of clean up right under. That's the eyelid done. I'm gonna do my eyeliner off camera, come back and then show you how to do the lower lash line. So I've done my eyeliner, lashes, and waterline off camera. So now what you want to do is work on the lower lash line. Now usually you want to work on this after you've done your full face, but I'm going to do a separate tutorial. I'm going to do a different video in just a minute about the silicone sponges. So I've kept my face bare for today. So now you want to work on the lower lash line. So I've already applied my waterline eyeliner, and you want to apply it pretty generously and kind of messily, really, so it's easy to blend out. So I used the Estee Edit Extreme Black eyeliner on my waterline and my top lash line. What is this called? The tight line. This one's very important because if you don't put eyeliner in the waterline, your eye will look bare. Like, it will look like something's off, but you won't be able to tell what's off. So be sure to put the eyeliner in the upper waterline as well. And you just want to do that by kind of like looking down and doing it, or just closing your eyes and doing it, whichever way works for you. I have to look down and do it because I wear contacts and I don't want to get the eyeliner on my contacts. So be careful for that. So now that we've applied the eyeliner on the waterline, as you can see, it's kind of smudged out on the bottom, and what you want to do is just take a small, very, very tiny pencil or concealer brush and just blend out the bottom. It's so simple. So what I'm going to be using is this C416 mini sable brush from Crown Brushes. It's supposed to be a lip brush, but I also like to use it for the I like to use it for the lower lash line because it's just very easy to kind of put the color where you need it and then blend it out. So I'm going to take this brush and take the eyeliner that's already on my waterline and start blending it out. Now, you can tell that it's not as pigmented because this eyeliner does dry pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do is go in with the black. You can use any color on the waterline. I keep saying waterline. You can use any color on the lower lash line that you'd like. I'm going to keep this look pretty neutral, so I'm going to be using the black. And you want to take that on the tip of the brush and apply it underneath. And you want to apply this as close to the waterline as possible because, again, if there are any gaps, your look will look very uneven. Now that you've applied eyeshadow on the lower lash line, you can see that it's black, but it's just a very strong black line just there, even though I try to blend it out with this brush. So what you can do to blend it out even further is take a pencil brush. This one is from Coastal Scents. I've had this for like 5 or 6 years. But you want to take a pencil brush, dip it into either the first transition color or the second transition color that you used. I'm going to go in with the second one, which was Sable. Blend out right under where we applied the black. Just like we blended out the edges on the lid, you want to blend out the edges on the lower lash line as well. Last step before putting on mascara to the lower lash line is applying an eyeshadow right on the inner corner. Now, a lot of people don't apply an inner corner highlight. I usually forget, but this is a great tip for helping to open up your eyes and make them look a lot brighter. Now, the trick is to use a clean pencil brush. I like to use a pencil brush because it gets the job done. I'm going to be using the E36 from Morphe. It's an even smaller pencil brush. You want to dip it into the shade that you applied on the lid, or you can take something even lighter. Now, if you are darker skin or tan skin, you don't want to take a shade way too light because then it'll look uneven. You want to make sure that it all blends out and blends together. So I'm going to take the same shade that we applied on the lid, which was the light bronze shade, and you want to just put it right on the inner corner first. Now, to blend that out, you have to blend this out too. You have to blend out everything. You want to kind of take it circular motions onto the lid, circular motions onto the lower lash line. And then blend that whole thing out. You don't want to take any extra product, whatever's left on your brush. Just blend the whole thing out. And you don't want to go past the beginning of your brow. And this is the eye look complete. So I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions, leave them down below. And if you do end up recreating this look using the tips that I've given you, please tag me on Instagram. I would love to see. And I will see you in my next one.